Thank you, convener, and thank you, panel. This has been very informative. I'm interested, if I can first ask maybe David Hope-Jones, but others may wish to comment on it as well. In your evidence, you said that there was a distinctively Scottish approach to international development. So I just wondered if you could expand on that, perhaps with a few examples from your Malawi experiences. Thank you.
Thanks very much indeed. I mean, I suppose for me, it's important that for an inquiry like this, the committee takes us at the big picture. That means with all sort of humility, looking at it from a sort of historical and existential and constitutional viewpoint. Why does Scotland do international development? Why does the Scottish Government do international development? And the case that I would make is because that actually, you know, Scotland as a nation has developed something quite distinctive in its approach to progressive internationalism, particularly as expressed in the bilateral relationship with Malawi. 17 years ago, the Scottish Executive, as First Minister Lord McConnell, went out to Malawi. He fell in love with Malawi, as countless Scots had done before and since. And he was really struck by the scale of civic links that he saw across Malawi. He was amazed that you could go across Malawi and reliably the people that you would meet would be banging on about Scotland and about their church link and their schooling, their university link, the charities that they were involved in. I've spoken to Lord McConnell about this. He was genuinely bowled over. He came back and he started speaking to people in Scotland. And he saw the same glimmer, that spark in people's eyes, that enthusiasm that was there for working with Malawi. And what his sense was that was quite distinctive from the sadly dominant paradigm of the day of an international development industry that was based at that point more on an assumption that, you know, we in the global north have the answers for the global south, that what works in Madagascar can be unproblematically transplanted to work in Malawi, that wasn't particularly interested in listening to people on the ground in a meaningful way. And the business case that was, I suppose, made at that point constitutionally was that there was a useful value add that Scotland and the Scottish Government could make in supporting those civic links to be able to achieve something quite distinctive. It never set out to, you know, emulate or replicate what the UK government was doing with DFID, now FCDO. And I think there's a real danger that if we lose that self-awareness, if we lose that big picture, if we lose that humility, we try and spread the jam too thinly. And inevitably, for practical reasons, that would mean sacrificing the principle foundations on which all of this is built. And key amongst those principles, I would say, would be dignified partnership, real, meaningful, human partnerships, and a recognition of the value that all of civic society can have. The bilateral relationship between Scotland and Malawi isn't limited to, it's not even defined by the governmental relationship. The President of Malawi said exactly that, speaking at our AGM in the autumn. He commended the Scottish Government for recognising that the bilateral relationship was far more than that. It was these 1,200 civic links, these 109,000 Scots, 208,000 Malawians working together in dignified human partnership. And the constructive synergy between the governmental, the parliamentary, and the civic society. That's what's so extraordinary. Every single one of the 129 MSPs has Malawi civic links in their constituencies. That means there's that all-party political support that encourages the Scottish Government, that applauds the Scottish Government when they work in this space, and that support then feeds back to civic society. And you have a virtuous circle there of a national effort between Scotland and Malawi, which is remarkable. For every pound that the Scottish Government puts into the Scotland Malawi Partnership, more than £200 comes from Scottish civic society. There's no other country in the world that can say that. That's something exciting and that's something special. And my encouragement to the committee is to, in turn, encourage the Scottish Government to not lose sight of those principles that were foundational at the start of this process, of this journey 17 years ago. It is to the immense credit of successive Scottish governments, but particularly the current Scottish Government, for the increase in the scale of the international development programme from 3 to 4 to 9 to 10, now to 15 million in the life of this Parliament. But even at that level, it's comparable with the island of Jersey's international development programme. We can't kid on that this is a world-changing quantity of money, however good it is. And so my encouragement would be to focus on that distinctive approach that values civic mobilisation in countries, that has dignified partnership at its heart, that's able to support good governance through the constructive synergy between the non-governmental and the governmental and Parliament, and is based on a reciprocal approach. I'm afraid our meeting today is too short for me to go through a great many examples, but what I would say is perhaps I could just give a hyperlink to a single document that has 1,200 different examples, disaggregated by every Holyrood constituency, showing hundreds of schools, hundreds of